our sports show. This is episode 680, alongside with my co-host Alyssa Charleston, and we're joined by special guest Julie Donaldson. She is obviously the senior VP for the Washington football team, and she does a lot of stuff with media, TV, content creator, everything. She's all into the business, and we're truly honored for her to join the show today. And Julie, first of all, how are you and your family doing so far during this new year?
Yeah, well, we wish we were totally out of COVID, but it looks like that's going to take a little bit longer. It's challenging. I haven't been able to see my family in a little bit of a while, and I hope that sometime can become soon. But everybody having to be kind of locked down because of COVID-19 is a bit frustrating, but everybody is healthy. And we are hoping to a very prosperous 2021. So personally, as a family and with everybody with us, we hope that that's going to be the goal. And of course, professionally, 2020 ended on a high note. So we're looking forward to kicking the year off right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Julie, before we get into your background, I'm curious, this has been an insane year for you in terms of making history, in terms of helping turn around an organization. I want to know what stands out to you the most from 2020, 2021, the early part of 2021, and what you might be most proud of.
I think the biggest thing is once we kind of went into lockdown, I remember I already had a flight automatically booked to South Florida to visit my sister. I think it was booked on March 11th. And we went into lockdown, a few days before that, on the 7th or 8th or 9th, one of those days. And I decided to go ahead and take it. The flight was pretty much empty. Because people were scared. There was a lot of fear of what was going on. And I ended up not taking the return flight back. I stayed down there for 4 months. I figured if we're going to be in quarantine with my sister, let's go out. You can paddleboard on the water. I can bike along the beach. And it was great. But I also busted my butt. I was booking people left and right for Zoom interviews before we even really understood the entirety of setting everything up. So most of the interviews that I was doing was all the head coaches in the area, and it was sometimes their first ones. So, I think I was kind of, because I've always been driven and ambitious, I was like, okay, I'm down here. This is great. This is nice. I have support. I'm with my sister, so I'm not alone, but we got to work. We have to make something happen. I've never been one that just sits back on their laurels and says, okay, unless it's a legit vacation, and says that, this is all right. I've always adapted to, there is some way you can always be productive, some way you can always contribute and make things happen. And I'm glad that I did, because during that time, I kind of grew certain skills. I stayed sharp. And then when the opportunity for this job came, I was like, okay, let's roll. So the thing that I'm most proud of is not letting outside circumstances control the work that I have a passion for doing and wanting to carry out, finding ways to adapt to it. And then just taking on this job has been a huge challenge, but I believe everything that I've gone through in life, and even those first few months of COVID, prepared me for what life was going to be in this role.
Mm-hmm. So while you were growing up in your lifetime, when did you start realizing that you wanted to get into the sports business, sports industry, and who was that one person that you looked up to in the sports industry while growing up?
Look, I was always a little bit of a tomboy growing up. I wanted to be outside racing, climbing trees, and arm wrestling and doing anything and everything. I was like, I'm going to win. And I did a good bit of the time. So I always just enjoyed being outdoors and the spirit of competitiveness. So it was kind of always, I think, destined to be my path, that it would be in sports is where my career would be. I always loved as well communicating, telling stories, learning about people. So it was just a natural fit to go into broadcasting and let that kind of be the path that I went into. It takes a little time though, I think, when you first start out in life to really kind of navigate your way and weave your way through of, where you want to go and where that ultimate dream kind of takes you and leads you along the way. Starting when I first was getting going though in the sports world, and there'd often be times where I was the only female in the locker room. Yeah. They would maybe, only allow one female on air in a market kind of a thing. My dad's like, well, you want to go and be a sports reporter? This is before you had a lot of different regional networks. Before, not to say that I'm that old, but still, as a young woman in this business, you mostly had your ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. And the odds of them, bringing on a female nowadays, it's almost expected. It's not unusual. But at the time, it was still something kind of a little bit of a novelty and new. So the competition was much more difficult. The expectations were really high. The challenges were forever in front of you. Being kind of one of the first that have that dream and says, I'm going to do this, the Susie Kohlbergs, you know, the Hannah Storms, those women that I got to look up to and watch. I said, they're freaking, I thought they were just badass women. I thought they were super cool. And I've always been drawn to cool women. And I think that's also part of why I love sports, is I think it's just the job I have is really cool. And I think it's a testament that I stayed with it, that those women had the fortitude to go before me and open up those doors. And I think the biggest thing we say is I'm the first to be a full-time female, or the first female to have a full-time job in the booth in the NFL is like wild. But here's the thing, the door's open. Women now can see that that's an opportunity for you, that the role in the NFL is growing, that women are having more opportunities, larger roles. And so it won't be so novel, and I'm going to just bring women right on behind me. So open it up, kick it open, and let's go.
That's the culture we absolutely have to have, helping each other out. And you absolutely need to put yourself on the same level as some of those women, because for me, like looking at all the things you've done and handled and the way you've done it, it's so, so impressive. But you talked about storytelling and getting to know people. I would love to know, you covered the Olympics and had quite a few stints there. I'm curious if there is male or female, but just a strong story that shook you and really reinforced your love for covering sports.
Gosh, you know, there were so many storylines that I got to cover and that I loved it. And, you know, I've covered 5 different Olympics, and with each of them, it started off where I interviewed the top 100 athletes that were going to the London Olympics. And then each Olympics I got to go in and cover pretty much every single event, which is a lot of wild names to have to try and say as well. And it was just, I don't know if there's necessarily one that kind of resonates necessarily over the other, but I just love the stories of the Olympians. A lot of them I found had actually come from Olympian families as well, which I found really kind of interesting, because that's kind of what they grew up seeing and understanding the competition and what it takes to get to that level. But I loved all of the stories because everybody had setbacks. No Olympian got there by just always winning everything. They've all had injuries or things that they had to overcome, places where they had to move away from their families just to go through the training. So it was really cool to learn the different facets and backgrounds, and to realize this is the best of the best. And, you know, they spend years training for like one moment, you know, that one moment, and how they handle that pressure, how they face that. And, you know, it was upsetting. I was supposed to cover the Summer Olympics this last year as well. So I was quite disappointed that they got postponed, but I suppose it ended up being great, because it allowed me to take on this job and say yes to this job, which I would have been covering the Olympics when this job came available. So I don't know how that would have worked, actually. I never really thought about that aspect before, but man, to be the best, it's not by luck, it's not by chance, it's by just freaking hard work, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's obviously your career is amazing, inspiring to me, and obviously you got to cover a lot of Olympics. But so when did this Washington football team job come about, and how long did it take you to decide on whether to say yes or no? But who was the first person to contact you from the team to give you this opportunity?
I was not expecting it at all. I don't think anybody was. You know, unfortunately, it came at a time where, you know, the franchise was facing some very difficult truths and realities that they had to address and hopefully move beyond and make sure did not happen again, of people not being treated the way that they deserve to be treated in the organization. So there are a lot of challenges right off the bat. But when the job first came to me, Terry Bateman had called my general manager at NBC Sports Washington and said, "Hey, we think we want Julie for this job. You know, are we on track here?" And my GM said, "Yeah." You know, she's a hard worker. She knows the team. You know, and I apparently gave the approval to talk with me and say, yes, let's offer this to her. So, you know, it came about pretty quickly. I don't remember if it was like Tuesday or Wednesday it first came about being offered to me. And because it was so secretive at the time, I couldn't really like reach out and ask a lot of people for like advice on it until a little bit later. But honestly, I accepted the job over the weekend, and the next Tuesday I started. So very, very quickly came about, and I could not have seen it coming. But now that I kind of sit back and kind of look at all the job has encompassed, my career has totally prepared me for this opportunity.
Just to follow up though, I'm just curious, were you kind of concerned when they were going through this tough situation, were you concerned, hesitant at first, or you said yes right away?
Well, I mean, I've covered this team for 10 years. So
Right.
I knew a lot of the people that work for the franchise and I was friends with them.
Yeah.
So, I liked a lot of the people that worked there, but some of the stories that I heard didn't necessarily surprise me either. So it was just one of those things where once I could, I called a few people and I said, hey, what's going on? They said, look, there's a lot of new people that here just want to be recognized for their hard work. They want to do a good job. They want to, be celebrated for the work that they do in the NFL. And that's what we want to get to. Male, female, no matter your ethnicity or your race or your beliefs, that you're recognized for your work and appreciated for that. And you produce award-winning championship style, work. So when I knew that was the overall goal of the people that were here, and all that wanted that, it was said, okay, then let's come in here and let's help that happen. Let's be somebody who's not afraid to speak up for that and to make sure that, they did what they believe their due diligence was to make sure all the changes that needed to be made and make sure that the right leaders were in place going forward. And I do believe that the direction the franchise is going in is one that everybody is going to feel supported and proud of, that work here and that support the team.
Is there a point where you kind of realized, obviously you said you were prepared for this job, you felt prepared for this job once you took it. How much more confident in that do you feel now that you've handled all the things that you've handled? Like, has there been a moment where you kind of have that like strength where you're like, wow, I'm really glad that I was put in this position? And then also, how important of a statement is it to have a female put into that kind of leadership position amidst all that turmoil?
At the time I was hired, I was the highest ranked female in the organization. So, women that had been working here, they didn't believe that they might have had necessarily the right routes to move up, to advance their careers. But seeing a woman in leadership gives them say, okay, that's maintainable. It's possible. And again, from what we're seeing, if you don't see it, you don't know you can be it. You don't know it's possible. So by being in a leadership position, first off, I take that responsibility to heart. It's something that I make sure that I am very conscious about and speaking to people and what decisions I am making going forward and what the implications are of that. But also, again, being the first female in the booth, that it shows people that, with your hard work, it's going to be recognized. And you don't have to have that block thinking you can't get there because you're a female. Because now we have more women in leadership than we did before. And those women leaders are going to be an example for those of where you can go, and also be, on the lookout for good talent that deserves to be right there with us as well.
I actually had Emily Applegate on my show last year, one of the ladies that was working with you guys, and she's such an inspiration, and another woman that everybody should be looking up to, and she's amazing. And it was truly an honor talking to her too and getting her side of the story. But for you, obviously you guys made another history this week. Jennifer King being a full-time assistant coach. What's that like, and what was your initial reaction when Ron Rivera did that?
Oh, she's awesome. I mean, she's been, maybe a little biased, but she's been one of my favorite coaches to just watch because she's so real. She knows her stuff. She's kind. The times that she's come and, shared with the women in the organization about what she's doing, she's just very genuine in it. You can see her, her passion and the giddiness for the game. And I think it is so great that head coach Ron Rivera saw that in her, saw she knew the game, saw that she could help the team advance and get better. And he says, look, I didn't walk in her shoes. The path that she took to get here, I can't see the field out of the lens of her eyes. And so because she brings that different perspective and view, it helps make us better. And it's just great that it doesn't have to be an intern role. It can be a full-time position. Every time you ever ask her, what does it take to get the respect of the room and the coaches? She's like, but they know me. It's not that, it wasn't that big of a deal for them. Because the biggest thing that the players want to know, it's not so much that you're a female, but do you know what you're talking about? Can you make me better? How can you make me better? And if you can go in there and you can help make those players better, fine. They want you. And that's exactly what she did. So I know the players respect her, the coaches respect her. We love her. We're glad to have her. And I couldn't be more proud because, again, she's just, she deserves it. And this is just the beginning for her. She wants to have her own room, and I'm sure one day soon she will.
So important. I'm curious, just because this was a tough stretch of 5 coaches, obviously. I've heard you say in interviews, the problems that were in this organization stretched through 5 coaches. It wasn't just, a short-term thing. how tough is it to make changes quickly? I know people kind of want to see like a transformation. I'm sure that's a lot of pressure on you, but how, I guess, kind of take us into the details of it, of how hard it is to change quickly and what still needs to be done.
Well, I think a lot of it was done before I was here. They made some changes with the personnel and with the staff, and then we continued to do that as we went forward. And of course, the big part of that was bringing in our team president, Jason Wright. And Jason has a very clear view of how teams and companies have a good culture, how they establish that, what they need to do for that. And so he came right in, and him and I had a real hard talk right off the bat. I said, this, and this needs to happen. He said, okay, then check them all off. Let's get them done. And, you know, a lot of it was stuff that we just had to kind of let people know what is and isn't okay too. And where to speak up and how to speak up, and just to let them know that, you know, what, it's going to be heard if there's a problem. And we're going to go forward with the right best practices to be, you know, a leading franchise in the NFL, to be a leading business in society and in our culture. So that's kind of what we're doing. There's certainly were challenges along the way. And, you know, there's a lot of things we needed to tackle. There's a long list of stuff to do, but I think we did a really good job prioritizing things. And a lot of it first started just with communication. You know, we started off having weekly meetings throughout the company. So there was strong communication now across the board on what we're doing and where we're going, and having them understand the timeline for that. So I think when you're just real with people and you're transparent with people and you say, hey, look, we get a problem, we're going to fix it, but it's not going to happen overnight. So hang with us. But if you have questions, raise them. We'll answer them as best we can, and we're moving forward. And we hope that you come with us. So, you know, I think laying that groundwork was honestly kind of simple. And then just it came bringing in the right people that could put the right things into place to carry out what needs to happen. You know, beefing up our HR, making sure, you know, we have things legally locked up, you know, giving them opportunities to know what's in the business so they can grow. So there's a ton of things that we're really excited that are in place now. And I tell you, this is where we are today is a world apart from where we started. And I believe people are really enjoying that.
Yeah. So you guys have a great front office now, and you guys are building the right way, and you guys have a heck of a team. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but watching this team from afar, Washington football team is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC East, in my opinion, for the years to come. Because you guys, like I said, you guys have a top-notch defense. I love Chase Young, one of the best young players in the league. But I want to ask you this. So, obviously, when you guys went through your head coaching candidates, what made Ron Rivera the best fit for you guys?
Well, I wasn't here then. So, but look, Dan Snyder, you know, had right after Ron was fired around Thanksgiving from Carolina after Washington beat Carolina, and we only had 3 wins last year. So that was one of them, which is why you make a change at head coach, because if the team is struggling, you have to make changes. And, you know, Ron Rivera knows Coach Gibbs, and Coach, you know, Joe Gibbs here is, of course, won 3 Super Bowls with the team. And he understands what it takes to be a winning coach, and what it takes to be a man of your word, and what it takes to have somebody who can be charged with changing and leading that change of culture into where you have that sustainable winning seasons year after year. So, you know, whatever happened in those interviews, it worked. Coach Rivera could have had opportunities to go even to the Giants, maybe some other teams, but he chose here because he also could have control over, you know, decisions in the front office, which is what he has. You know, he can make those final decisions on the roster, but he brought in a lot of help around him. So he brought Martin Mayhew as general manager. He brought in Marty Herney that he worked with in Carolina to be our executive vice president of football player personnel. So he's going to have a lot of help this offseason to really make those decisions and make sure that we continue to grow in the right direction. But you look at what Coach Rivera did this last year, how he turned the team around, doing it while battling cancer. It's a testament to who he is, the steady leadership he offers, and the clear direction and standard for excellence of where he wants this team to go.
What was it like inside the broadcast booth, obviously, as the first female to be a part of that team, and in a season where the Washington football team goes to the playoffs? Alex Smith makes an insane comeback that nobody ever thought would happen. What was it like to be a part of that this year, in a historic year for you and for the team?
Oh, there were so many great moments, preparing for this though, I made sure that I, hired some really great guys that could do this with me. Bram Weinstein, D'Angelo Hall, have been great in the booth. We work together really well. We're growing together. I'm sure our first game compared to our last game would be a big difference between it all. But we're only going to continue to get better. There were so many great moments that we got to call. Like you said, I'll never forget watching, Alex Smith going, oh my God, he's grabbing his helmet. He's going on the field. Whoa, this is actually happening. His family was there and watching their reactions. To beating the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, and sweeping them actually. Like there were some really cool moments. I had much more fun with it than I ever thought I did. My confidence grew, and it will continue as I put in more work in the off season to, better prepare myself and position myself for game days. And that's something I hope to do, however long I have this year or this job for every year. Like let's go to work in the off season to make sure every year is going to continue to get better. So, it was a lot of fun, being the female there. Like it wasn't such a novel idea. It's just that a woman hasn't done it before. So if that's what it takes of me doing it and showing that it can be done, then let's go and let's continue to make it better.
Yeah. So speaking of connections, obviously in this industry is all about building networking. And so for you, you've been with the team for 10 years. And what's it like just seeing this team grow and you see building connections with different people that come in or out of the building, and what's it like just seeing different players coming in too? And obviously they've been through a lot of quarterback changes. I had Jason Campbell on the show too, but I want to get to Alex Smith though, because this guy he's a definition of a warrior. Is there any chance, like obviously there's a lot of questions for you guys there, but do you think there's a chance that he can be your starting quarterback for next season if everything?
I think it's up to him. Even Coach Rivera says that we'll wait and see. Alex has said he's going to take some time to decompress after the season and really kind of, think about how things went, what he's going to be best for him and his wife, Elizabeth, for his family. He's got 3 young kids. I'm sure if he wanted to do it, he could. We saw, that he defied all the odds and not just came in and played again, but he led this team. It's a big reason why the team was in position to win the division is because of him. And it's not just what he did on the field. He's a leader. The players follow him. They listen to him. They elevate their game. And, every player would say, look, you see Alex out there giving it his all. Why can't I? I have no excuse. There is zero excuse any player on that team to do anything less than their absolute best when they see what Alex Smith is doing and what he's sacrificing and how hard he's working. So, but those are the kind of players that you need on a team. And that's what head coach Ron Rivera is going to build around. So, up to Alex, we'll give him that time to make those decisions. It was a long season. It was a very hard, difficult season that we've never experienced in the NFL. Everybody's kind of worn out. So go decompress, exhale, and then once we're in clear minds, we make those decisions and then we know where the team needs to go going forward.
I would love to know, I heard in an interview that you loved like the classic, like Washington football team. It is kind of smooth and like easy and like very to the point. What is the status of the name change? Are you guys going to really take a look at that in this off season?
Oh no, we've been looking at it since we first made the announcement, which was like day 2 on the job for me. No, I've led, at least already a half a dozen, and there's many more coming, focus groups from all different kinds of walks of life and age groups and all over the place to kind of make sure we understand not just what the name is, but what it means, what it represents, what it stands for, what that is in the community, what it means to the fans, because it becomes a part of their family. It becomes that moment of where, dad and son and dad and their, daughter go to a game, and that becomes something that they build upon and they cherish around. So we want to make sure the name encompasses everything of that. But there's been over 1,100 or 11,000 submissions of names. So as you can imagine, there's a lot to go through. It takes a while before you can really get something right. We're going to take our time. We're hoping to have it sooner than later. But next season, we're going to be the Washington football team while we still make sure we get all the legalities straightened out, because there's so much that has to go on with that before you can just have a new name and uniforms and logos and everything along those lines. But the players love Washington football. They love it. No one complains about it. I love it. I hope the fan base loves it. I don't know that that's what it stays, but I think it's something to be proud of in the interim.
So for me, I'm a big advocate in women in sports, and obviously seeing you being the first female in the broadcast booth, and now seeing Jennifer King and Kim Nang being the first female GM, Kamala Harris first vice president female, and then you see Sarah Fuller being the first kicker to kick a field goal in the Power Five conference. What's it like just seeing you guys getting more opportunities, and obviously there's more to come? And what advice would you give these young girls that are seeing this right now?
Keep at it. Just keep at it. Look, there have been plenty of times I went for something and I didn't get it. There are plenty of times I went for something and I got knocked down because I, messed up or had a mistake or, flubbed something. But the biggest thing is I just kept at it because I knew that there was something destined for my life. And there's a reason that dream was implanted in me. And there's a reason I had a passion for that. So I wasn't going to let somebody determine how far I could go, what I could do, what I couldn't do. I knew if you just kept going, you get more no's than you do yeses, but all I needed was a good yes. And then you build on that, you learn from it, and you keep learning, always learning. That's why I say even the off season, I hope if I'm still doing this job in 10 years, every off season, I'm still learning how to get better. The day you stop learning, the day you stop growing is probably the day you should say, okay, maybe it's time to step away. So look, get the dream and just keep going. Sometimes the marker changes a little bit, but it's always going to be worth it, I think, at the end. So
last question from me. I'm just curious if you would rather make this kind of like a normal thing instead of you've had the first woman in history and all these big, wonderful words and important words, but are you wanting this to kind of be, no, this is how it is now. Like girls and dads are going to go to games together. Girls and their friends are going to go to football games together. It is a masculine culture, but it is changing. Is it something that you kind of just want it to be almost a neutral, yes, yeah, both men and women, it's all one thing?
Oh yeah. Look, we know that more women, are fans. I mean, a lot of those that I interact with, like they know what they're talking about. So, a lot of it too is just understanding that it's a world that they can come in and be comfortable in, be accepted in, because I think that's one of the biggest things too, is if, you're the only, you feel uncomfortable, so you might just go the other way. The more that we, have women involved in things, the more that women grow up seeing women in those positions, they realize it's not as uncomfortable. They're not the only, that there's more in the room. So there's more reason to learn it, to enjoy it, to celebrate it. And that's how I think you grow to be, supportive of all facets, male, female, no matter, again, where you come from. I think just the more you can have in the room cheering the team on, the better it is for everyone. So, I hope this is just I feel like the beginning was there, but this is just the next step, and we'll continue to make those steps. So it looks good. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to help anybody behind me that wants to come on and be in this business as well. It's not an easy business to navigate. It's not easy to be into. There is definitely, when I say that word, passion, because it's long hours. You miss a lot, but the reward is such a great payout.
So a couple more things here for me. So for you, what's it like just connecting with other shows like us and the other shows you've been on, sharing your story and sharing your team story? What has that been like?
No, it's great. Again, I think it's good to get the word out there. And it's good, again, for women to see that this job is possible. It's good to see that the Washington football team's going in a great direction, that we're putting a winning product on the field and in the front office. So if we can spread that word, then it's great. And it's fun to talk to those that are fans. I think that's one of the things too, is I really want to make sure when I came in here is that the fans saw that we listen to them, we hear them, and we appreciate them. So this is kind of just an extension to reach out to all of them in that facet as well.
So when you were in the broadcast booth, what was your most memorable game that you covered as the first female in the broadcast booth?
Game one sticks out because they were down so far. They was down like 17 points, and coach was taking an IV at halftime, and they won their way back because of all the years I've covered this team. They struggled to make adjustments and struggled to come back to win games if they were down. So that was pretty cool. It was also like those first nerves and jitters. But there were a lot of great moments along the way. Again, watching Alex Smith come out there. The playoff game was fantastic. Monday night game, beating the Steelers when they were undefeated. There's a lot to celebrate this season. And I know it's, again, just the beginning. The expectations are now high for next season. The schedule is difficult for next season. That's what you get for winning the division. But I trust that this team and Coach Rivera and those that he, has hired, Martin and Marty, and all the scouts are working hard to give us another great product on the field.
What's that one word that you keep with you every day when you wake up, or one word or quote that you keep with you?
I wake up with a thank you. I'm a big woman of faith, and I always wake up with a thank you for another day. And I'm always asking, my Creator to say, let His word speak through me, the actions speak through me. And that I can maybe touch a life wherever I can, or maybe have the strength to get through the day or where I need, but I do always wake up with a grateful mindset. And so then I do believe when you do that, whatever challenges do come, it just kind of sets the day right to say, we're blessed to be here. We're blessed to be alive, to be healthy, to be functioning, to be doing something that I love. So I never want to lose sight of that appreciation.
So before we get to the, you have something, Alyssa?
No, I just said love that.
Before we get to the last two things here, this is really important because obviously this month is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and we're part of the Hugh Jackson Foundation. Obviously Hugh Jackson, former NFL coach, he's trying to get back into coaching, but they're mainly focused on this foundation, and we're ambassadors for them, and we're really grateful to be part of that team and helping them out, coming up with ways how to prevent human trafficking and making sure these kids and other people make the right choices and make the community safer. So when you guys get a chance, please go check out the Hugh Jackson Foundation. I'll send you the page. They're really inspiring, and like I said, we're grateful to be part of it. And for the last two things here, this is a question I've been bringing up to all my guests. Obviously, this week was the 1-year anniversary of Kobe and Gianna's death. And do you remember where you were at that day when it happened? And do you have any Kobe memories and Gianna memories?
I can't remember. It's been a year. I mean, can't believe I remember the moment. I was unwinding from last season down in the Keys with my sister, and we were just sitting on the beach. And when that news came, and I said, that can't be real. It can't be real. I met Kobe. One of my first jobs in the business, I worked for the Miami Heat. And I remember meeting Kobe actually on my birthday, which is right around this time as well. And took a picture with him because back then you weren't allowed to take pictures with players. They'd take your credential and say, forget it. Nowadays, guys take selfies all the time. And it's it's expected. But I do have that picture of me, young, ambitious in this business with Kobe. And he was just kind and gracious. And, again, it's just a testament to the life he wanted to live. And, it's still heartbreaking for that loss. It's been a year, but it's still just very real. And I feel like, the sports world really misses what he brought and the mindset that he brought and the family that he has. So
happy early birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
But the last thing here before we let you go, and like I said, this is truly an honor to be talking to you. But this is a question I've been bringing up also to all my guests about the nurses, doctors, and essential workers. Would you like to say anything to them right now? And what was your reaction when the NFL are giving them over 75,000 free tickets to come to the Super Bowl?
That's great. Look, I have friends that are nurses, and the courage, especially when there was so much fear early on, and even still now, COVID is very serious and not be taken lightly. We're losing lives because of it, and those that are on the front line sacrificing and risking theirs to kind of help. It's a thank you. And we need people like that in life that say, you know what, there's a need, someone needs help, and I'm going to be courageous enough to do their calling. So, but I'm glad that they'll be able to relax and have a little fun, hopefully have a good game on Super Bowl Sunday. Look, Tom Terrific against the kid, Pat Mahomes. Who's going to win out? Looking forward to it.
Speaking of that, who do you have winning the Super Bowl?
I don't make predictions. I'm sure it's going to be a great game, but you know what? Every time I bet against Tom Brady, it's usually not a good thing to do. So, but we'll see.
I got the Buccaneers winning. So.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Julie. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
So this has been a pleasure. Episode 680. Go follow Julie Donaldson on all social media platforms. We're going to be posting this on all social media formats. And thank you again. You're such an inspiration. Keep grinding. Your team is heading into the right direction, and you and your family stay safe.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.